Well, we're all excited about game week here at Notre Dame, and certainly, getting back on the field for our football team after a loss is the best recipe for any football team. It's been a long time since we played that last game, and a lot of work, a lot of preparation leading into this first game against Temple. We're playing an opponent that certainly, with Coach Rule taking over, we don't know a lot about. We do know this, that, Matt tutored under Al Golden. We know the success that Al has had, and I have a great deal of respect for Al and his program and the discipline and organization that the Temple football team is going to have in this game, as well as working for Coach Coughlin. You know that this football team is going to be ready. They've returned a lot of players from last year. We don't know exactly what we're going to see. We think we do, but I think this is one of those openers where we're going to have to kind of make some adjustments along the way. And they've got some good football players. I think, what the things that we look at, first of all, in the opener is playing the game the right way. Last year, we understood how important it was to get off to a great start. Play the game the right way, attention to detail, play with great effort and enthusiasm. And the watchword for us will be to play the game clean. Don't turn the football over. Make sure that we're efficient in the special teams game, and hopefully more than that this year. Hopefully that we could turn some special teams plays into some big plays. So I think we all know openers tend to have some mistakes in them. We need to play a clean opener against a team that obviously is coming into Notre Dame Stadium and has nothing to lose, and our players understand that going into it. So a well-coached football team, very good offensive line, big physical group. They returned 3 out of 5 starters up front, big tight end, physical running back. They've got 3 wide receivers that have proven themselves in their program. They wear low-digit numbers, so we know that means something to their team and to their program. From a defensive standpoint, they returned one of the best linebackers in the Big East last year, the old Big East Conference. And, of course, Levi Brown is a guy that can get after the quarterback. So, again, personnel for Temple, they showed that they can compete with anybody in the Big East last year. And you know that last year we had to take Pittsburgh into overtime last year, so we're going to have to play well against a team that's coming into Notre Dame Stadium wanting to obviously show very well for their first-year head coach. Again, from our standpoint, it's an opener. It's where we start the 2013 season, and it's important that we get off to a good start. Questions?
Not all at once.
Down the middle. When you were thinking about implementing the pistol, did you go to Chris Alt at all and ask him about it and get any feedback from him? Yeah,
we had Coach Alt come here, and he spent a couple of days here. He was also a clinic speaker for us. How much we use the pistol will be determined really for us in terms of game plan week to week. We just think it's another piece that we can use to, get some downhill runs. But I think it's not. I don't think we've turned into a pistol offense. We're still a shotgun offense that will operate similar to what we have in the past.
You mentioned the downhill runs. Is it something you would have implemented, though, if you had Everett as your quarterback this year?
Yeah, I think the principles of the shotgun offense still allow you to do some things from the home position. When you are in the shotgun, you limit some of the runs that you have when the back is offset. I think you open up a lot more versatility. The backers have to obviously play a lot more downhill. They can't offset one way or the other based upon the back. It also helps a little bit in with your back working coast to coast in protections as well.
Lastly, any update on Ronnie Stanley?
Yeah, Ronnie practiced full yesterday and had a good practice, and expect him to continue to progress.
Brian, right next door. You've had 2 spotless openers and 1 that was turnover-ridden. I'm sure going into all the games you felt well prepared. What is it about game week that can, I think you've used the analogy before, turning the keys over to your teenager. What can you do now here in this 4th year where to kind of make sure they take care of the football?
Well, I think you have a lot of veterans that have been in those openers and have experienced what the level of play is. Look, everything is built on expectations. Expectations start and end with how we do things on a day-to-day basis, not leading up to Saturday, but how you do things on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so we have a number of players that understand what those expectations are through practice and through how we handle ourselves in meetings and classroom and on this campus. So they've been immersed in that on a day-to-day basis. So into year 4, you know, there's not as much of a concern that all of a sudden we're going to forget how to handle ourselves.
And just you've been able to manufacture depth on the defensive line by bringing in Ishak, and Coach Diaco mentioned that Kona Schwenke was one of the more improved players in August. Can you get to that 3rd rotational player in the backup, and who might that be?
Well, I think right now, you know, Kona has some flexibility where he could play some 4 and 5 technique for us. So I think you've got, you know, some flexibility. We think Tyler Stockton can come in and get some plays for us. So, I mean, you could obviously put that math together and figure, you know, that 3rd rotation could be Tyler Stockton with Kona playing a little bit as well.
Brian, you said you were prepared to play a lot of people on Saturday. Given the weather forecast, it's going to be very, very hot. Are you prepared to play even more people than you anticipated?
No, I think we're going to play the guys that we believe at this point going into practice today that have shown that they're ready to play. I don't know that anybody's going to get themselves off that status today. You know, I think we have a really good idea. I will tell you this, that it's a lot deeper than we've had at any time. You know, I think that there's, you know, 5 running backs that can help us play. You know, we feel like there's a number of players at the receiving position that can play for us. So I think we've got a lot more depth than we've had at any time, you know, coming into the season at this point.
Brian, you alluded to a little in the statement, but what do you think T.J. Jones can bring to the punt return game that's been missing the last couple of years?
Well, I think I first said at the press conference that he really wants to do this job. I think you have to have that want and desire and belief that you can be really good at it. I think second, you know, we've really looked at a number of areas within our special teams where we can help him in returns. We did an extensive off-season study. I'll just give you one example. We had 7 safe punts against Purdue. 7 safe punts where our defense was on the field. And it was just the circumstances of the game. They punted 4 times inside our 50-yard line. Very rarely are you going to bring your punt return team on there. We hope that we're able to get into situations where we can get our punt return team on the field. I think we've put some guys in there that we think that we can force punt returns more often where we don't have to have safe punt on the field. So we've looked at a lot of different situations where we believe that we can get our punt return team on the field and a guy back there that really wants to get that job done. Now, take both of those together. That punt return team now knows they got a guy back there who's a senior captain that wants to do their job. There's a big motivation factor for those guys to want to get that job done for them as well.
Quickly, is Will Mahone playing this weekend?
No, he is out this weekend.
Brian, Temple's one of several teams you're going to play this year that had to devote a lot of time during camp on figuring out who the quarterback is going to be. Being someone who's gone through that several times, how much more time are you able to give overall production-wise during camp when you don't have to go through that?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. Things that you can work on that you don't get a chance to really focus on. For example, communication with your wide receivers and getting in the right play. Movement within the pocket. Really focusing on, for example, with Tommy, his ability to extend plays. where you're focused on reps and calling plays and evaluating who the starter is from 1 to 2. There's so many other things that we were able to work on this year, knowing who our starter was. So I know what Coach Rule was having to go through. I've been through that many times. It's nice that we're able to work on many more things that help our quarterback position out leading into game 1.
Are there unique challenges that come with playing against a team or preparing for a team with a new coach?
Oh, absolutely. I think I know more about Eastern Michigan's defense than I do anybody else. Coach Snow, who is their defensive coordinator, was at Eastern Michigan last year. And I found myself talking in terms of what Eastern Michigan was doing. And clearly, obviously, that's not their talent pool. They've got Temple players. And so there's that unknown. Clearly what they did at Eastern Michigan, they might be doing something totally different this year at Temple. So there's that unknown. Obviously, with a new quarterback, a new offensive coordinator who comes from Tennessee, Chattanooga. There's so many different variables that go into the opener. First of all, now add a new staff, a new head coach. So we have to be on guard. And from our standpoint, we've got to take care of what we do. What's very fortunate for us is that we go against a defense that runs both 3 down and 4 down. And that helps us a lot in our preparation. But again, we're going to have to be ready to make adjustments on the fly.
Brian, you mentioned the advantages in the pistol for the running back. What about the quarterback getting the snap a little bit sooner than he would? What are the benefits of that?
I don't know that that's much. Tim, we're talking about 4 versus 5 yards. We're about a yard difference. His heels are at 4 versus 5. I think he still feels very comfortable catching the ball at that depth. Again, I think most of the benefits there are protection-wise and the ability to get the back in a downhill pattern. Instead of being east and west, he's more north and south.
Did you have an interest in how did the pistol all come about? Did you have an interest in, so you invited Chris Alt in the spring, or was it something that you had seen that you were curious about, or how did that all come about?
Well, in year 1, we ran a little bit of pistol, and I felt like it was something that I wanted to get into a little bit more of, and I think it fits some of the personnel that we have. George is a guy that I wanted to get downhill. As you know, he's got great speed and acceleration. He ran downhill very well in high school, and we felt like the pistol could fit him very well. Not just him, but we felt like it was something that could benefit us moving forward. So again, just another piece to our offense that gives us the versatility that we're looking for. I think week to week you may see it a little bit more than others, and some you may not see it at all. I just think it's another piece that helps us complement the players we have.
As you move forward through the season, what are some of the guidelines you use in terms of determining which freshmen play, which freshmen you use a year of eligibility on?
Well, I think, we like to get our freshmen in on special teams early on and get them acclimated, especially those guys that we plan on or have a vision towards playing. So I think you could probably get an eye towards what our intentions are based upon those guys you see on special teams on Saturday. So, if you see a lot of guys that are freshmen on special teams, you can probably take a pretty good insight into that. We have an eye towards playing them. The running back situation, though, may be a little bit different. We think that that's a position that you can impact the game in week 6 at that position. That might be a little bit different. Whereas the defensive players, if we're going to play those guys, I like to get them on special teams right away.
And I think it breaks down. You play 6 games and then you have your first bye week. Is that? I think in the past you've used the midseason as kind of a cutoff.
Yeah, I would generally speaking say that that's a pretty good assessment as to where we would be.
Well, 2 questions. If I were to ask you what player has jumped out or has made the greatest improvement since the start of camp? Who would come to mind right away?
If freshman or any player?
Any player.
Boy, I think there's a few guys that stand out. I think in terms of just overall improvement as a football player, I'd probably would have to put it on two. The first guy, I would probably say Nick Martin. You know, where he went from the spring as such an important position at center, right? Where you're taking over one of the most important positions on the offensive line, where we were hopeful to where he went against Lewis Nix every day, one of the best, if not the best, nose guard in the country, and has done very well. I would say that the progress that he's made in such a very short period of time has been really impressive for me. And I think defensively, Kona Schwenke has been a different player in the spring than he is right now. He's going to play a lot of football, and he can play for a lot of teams and make an impact. Now, I think both of those guys impact the game differently, but one is a starter and one right now is not. But in terms of improvement, if you were asked us off the chart improvement, both of those guys are different players than they were in the spring.
If I could jump back to the playing the freshmen, do you consult with them? I mean, if you reach a certain point in the season, or even if you see a kid that isn't making great progress and you want to sit on a year, maybe he wants to go ahead and play and graduate in 4 years, how do you communicate that with a freshman?
I communicate before the fact. You know, we have conversations before, and we let them know what our intentions are. I will tell you this, that the group of freshmen that I've had conversations with, they all want to play. And it's a group that they want to get on the field right now. And but I do like to have that conversation so we're not, you know, on a different page. So all the freshmen that we've had conversations with, they generally don't come to my office unless there's a disconnect with their position coach and coordinator relative to, do you want to play? And we've already had those conversations, so we're in pretty good shape.
Thanks.
Brian, off to your right. First glance at the depth chart has Stanley starting right tackle, Lombard inside. Is that how you're going to go, and why do you like that if that's the way you're going to go?
Yeah, I think right now, if you would ask us today, Ronnie would start there, but that's a very fluid situation. We have great confidence that Steve Elmer could go in there and start for us if we need to as well. And it's not out of the question, Brian, that he could be playing there at some time on Saturday as well. So I think you should keep an eye on both of those guys playing some right tackle for us.
And did Austin Collinsworth win that job? He's ahead of Shoemate right now. Is that still another fluid situation?
Yeah, no, both will play. I think it's a 1A, 1B situation. Depending on where we are in the game, down in distance, a lot of those factors will be involved. I think you got to look at both of those guys playing an equal amount of football.
Is there anybody else who's not available for Saturday who we sort of haven't talked about, I guess, ad nauseum already?
No, just Will Mahone, other than Tony Springman, who had surgery, successful surgery.
Brian, just in the secondary, if Collinsworth is the one, does that mean Shoemate's the dime, or how does that?
No, they'll share. You got 3 for 2 back there right now, you know, and Hardy would be 4. And they'll play in a pretty balanced rotation right now as it goes.
And then at the beginning of camp, you talked about the freshman class. What impressed you most, their ability to compete physically. Now that you've had them for 4 weeks hands-on, I mean, what have you sort of learned about that group at large? I mean, we know about Jaylon and Corey Robinson, but just the group as a big picture.
Well, I've asked these questions. One, have they, and I've asked them on a couple of occasions, have they lost their passion or their desire to want to continue to get better? And every day I see these guys wanting to get better, staying out. They're here to watch film. They're still it's not new to them anymore. They're here. They're doing football every day. They still want to get better. They haven't leveled off. They haven't hit the wall in a sense. So I think what's impressed me the most about this group is that they're in it for the long haul. They've had a long summer. You know, our freshmen are, you know, they go through a very rigorous bridge program. They're here all summer, weight training, conditioning, and they can take on more. It's a pretty remarkable group of kids, both on and off the field. And from a football standpoint, we can heap even more on them.
When it comes to guys who are going to see their first time extensively, whether that's Stanley or Jaylon, would you do much with them this week? Do you leave that up to your position coaches, veterans, just to kind of keep them without getting too anxious about what's coming on Saturday?
Oh, there's constant, you know, observations, communication. We're very keen and aware of going in. This will be my 22nd year of being a head coach where, yeah, every time I go into the staff room, I'm asking about the young guys and how they doing, how they handling things. Are you seeing any anxiety? Are you looking through the back of their head at this point? And so those questions are asked quite often, but we haven't seen anything. We actually were, you know, it was interesting. We were kind of talking about it last night. Is that that switch where it you know, game week starts, kicked in about halfway through practice yesterday. And it didn't happen until about, I don't know, we got about 10 periods into practice. And then you saw the switch. And you saw it with the freshmen. And they did it after the veterans kicked it in. So it was an interesting observation. They're going to do a lot of this after the veterans do it. So we're going to have to keep an eye on them all week because they're going to follow a lot of the leads that our veterans have. So we talked to our seniors, we talked to our veterans about making sure that they keep a good eye on them.
With that class, and this is something that I think Martin and Watt talked about at Media Day, that what impressed them about that group is their willingness to kind of get in line, despite whether they were 5-star, 4-star, whatever. Has that impressed you, and is that something that you take for granted, or is that something that's maybe a little bit different about this group, the way they're wired?
We saw it in the recruiting process. This is a group that has shown us from day one that they will play hard. They have a great respect for the game and a great respect for their teammates. No trash talking. It's not about themselves. It's about their team. There's no sense and feeling of a class system in the room. It's a very unique group that they have never once said, "Hey, we're the group. You know, we're this freshman group that has made this a better football team." They have blended in so well to a established identity within this football team, and it takes a humble group of guys, and that's why it's a pretty good dynamic.
Thanks.
Yep.
Here, Brian. Have you been able to find like a happy balance and medium of getting starters on special teams with also being able to get freshmen on there at the same time? And how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think I have. I work at it hard. It's not easy. We try to make certain, as I said earlier, that if we're going to play freshmen, you know, I want to get them on the running teams. I want to get them out there. I want to get them acclimated to the game situations, because if they're going to play, I think it's a great entry into playing on the field, as well as guys that we believe you know, can impact those special teams without taking a position player and wearing him out. So I think it's a balance that you know, myself and Scott Booker, we spend a lot of time on talking about personnel and getting the right personnel on ST.
Are you able to share like some of the freshmen who will be on ST Saturday? Like
I think we we'll leave that for Saturday. I think you'll see. Here's what I'll tell you: you'll see a number of true freshmen playing on ST.
You changed the format game day last year with the walk around, and you won't have the team mass this year. These little
we'll have the team mass. We'll have it on Friday.
But not on Saturday.
Yep.
And that, with these little tweaks here and there, I mean, when you came in, did you take a whole analysis of the program and say, here are maybe some things that are not getting us at our maximum or optimum level? on game day. And,
Certainly.
And evaluate them.
Yeah. I mean, we have distinctions that will never change, that we never want to change. We're always going to have mass. It's important. It's part of our the fabric of Notre Dame football. It's part of our mission. There's certain things that will never go away as it relates to Notre Dame and its traditions. What I was looking for were simply better ways to manage leading up to the game itself. And we've been able to work together to give our student athletes the best schedule leading up to kickoff. That's simply been it. Not to exclude anything or take away anything that is important to our traditions or our history, but simply give our student athletes the best opportunity to be successful when we kick that football off.
In your fourth year here, this is pretty broad, but what do you think might be the most important change during your time that has been implemented that has helped the program?
I just think the ability to manage, the 24 hours leading up to kickoff. It's, the pep rally and the luncheon and, the demands on the players' time and, getting all of those things accomplished. They're great things that we want to do them all. We want to be part of them. We want to be actively involved in them. We just wanted to make sure that they fit in a schedule that allowed our players the opportunity to really focus in on game time without being overloaded. And I think we've come to a nice schedule and working with our administration that our players have a very similar schedule now that mirrors what we do on the road and what we do at home.
Thank you.
To your left, Brian. You mentioned the 5 running backs, and it's been something we've talked about all camp. Is Saturday an audition for them at all, being able to see what they can do in a game situation?
I think it's an audition every week for all of our players, right? I think, some guys are, put in that position. Whether all 5 of them get that opportunity this weekend for that audition, I don't know, but certainly I think you could characterize it as such. They're not all going to get 20 carries, right? So, they're going to get their chance and they're going to have to make the best of their opportunity. But I can tell you this, that at some point, at some time in the season, you're going to get a chance to see all those guys play.
Talked a lot this month about the number of leaders on your defense. Have you at all had to manage having too many voices in that room or talking or a hierarchy at all with that group? No, I have not. I mean, I don't know that that's ever been with this group an issue. They all work hard. There's not a lot of chatter over each other. Most of them are guys that just go and do their job and get their work done. They know what's expected of them. And, obviously Coach Diaco and his staff, the defensive guys do a great job of, obviously articulating what's expected of them. Our program has set those parameters for them as well, and they go and do their work. So, no, we haven't had that issue of too many Chiefs on the defensive side of the ball.
Brian, I believe you said at one point that you didn't think Manti as a freshman was ready to start, and he didn't start his first game. What have you seen from Jaylon that makes you think he's ready to start, game one?
Consistent performance, and it is at a different position. Manti was in a 4-down defense. We were going into a 3-down defense. Jaylon's playing on the edge of a defense, asked to do a lot of different things. It's probably not a fair comparison other than they're both great freshman players, right? Jaylon is asked to do a different job. He plays so well in space. Very smart player, plays instinctively. I think the one thing that Jaylon has done, as well as a lot of freshmen that I've been around, he doesn't make the same mistake twice. He's a guy that comes back the next day and he can eradicate the same mistake twice. And that's a hallmark of a guy that's going to play a lot of football for us.
And I think George came in as assuming he was at number one when the training camp began, what did he do that you've seen that kept him there? I mean, how did he hold up everybody?
Well, first of all, he has experience at the position. He has done it on the field. He's going to have to continue to do it. He's like everybody else. You know, he's going to have to do it against Temple. And he's going to have to continue to show that. But he hasn't lost anything in preseason camp. He's continued to get better. He's stronger. He had a great offseason. He's been a great teammate. So he hasn't done anything to take that away from him. But he's going to have to perform. You know, if George fumbles the football, if George misses assignments, if George doesn't run the right hole, Georgia was standing next to me on the sideline. So it's a very competitive situation, but George has done everything we've asked him to do in the offseason, and he's had a good camp, and we expect him to play well on Saturday.
And you've mentioned several times that one of the priorities this season is scoring more. You know,
everybody wants to score more, right?
But the challenge here is you have a quarterback that doesn't have quite the same running ability. You lost a first-round draft pick at receiver. What gives you confidence that this group can score more, that you will be able to do it?
Just what I've seen. You know, I've been doing it a long time. I mean, I don't throw bouquets out unless I got a pretty good idea of what I know. And Tommy Rees is going to help us score more points than we did last year. And our offensive line and our running backs and balance at the wide receiver position is going to allow us. He's making good decisions. He's showing some escapability. But it's not just going to be him. You know, we can threaten you over the top. We can push the ball over your head. If you want to drop down on us, we've got some weapons that can beat you one-on-one. And we got a quarterback that can see that and throw the ball to you. We struggled with doing that at times last year. We won't struggle doing that this year.
And I think on Thursday you mentioned that you want to be better at first and second down passing.
Yep.
Is that in distance? Because I look and I think that if my numbers are right, that it was 60% on first down and 65% on second down. What numbers are you aiming for?
Well, what we're aiming for is on first and second down, we had to run into some bad looks. We want to be able to control those first and second down run looks a lot better. So I'll give you an example. Early in the year, we were plussed out a lot in the run game, meaning the defense had more players in the box, and we should have been throwing the ball more effectively in first and second down situations. So we need to throw the ball better in those kinds of situations when we get plussed out.
Coach, to your left. Normally there are 2 weeks of class.
I'm sorry.
Normally there are 2 weeks of two full weeks of class before the first game, but this year there's only 1. Is that a concern for the freshmen still adjusting to college life?
No, they have got their full of college life. Trust me. Our summer bridge program does a great job. Kevin Rooney does a great job of putting our program together. They went from 6 weeks of school from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So they are acclimated to the academic rigors of Notre Dame. I am not worried about that. They're going to be a little bit taxed, right? Because their schedule now is a combination of both the next couple of days. But certainly they handled themselves very well this summer with a very demanding schedule. In a strange way, it's a great advantage at Notre Dame because of our summer program that they're not going to be overwhelmed on the first day of classes. Matter of fact, they're going to be acclimated quite well compared to other, universities where they're going to lay it on and it's going to be a bit overwhelming based upon what these kids are asked to do in the summer. I bet you've never heard that before. I mean, it's true.
I think I counted 3 early enrollees on the 2 deep. Was the spring more beneficial this year than normal?
No, I think it's beneficial every year. If that's an extraordinary thing that you're asked to do is to come in early. Obviously Steve Elmer and James Onawalu in particular, those 2 young guys are great beneficiaries of the early enrollment process for us, and they're going to take full advantage of it. Both of them will play for us on Saturday. Who was our third? And of course, Corey Robinson. So, yeah, you'll see all three of those early enrollees play for us on Saturday.
Brian, can you talk about the kind of fall camp that Chris Brown had, what he showed you?
I thought it was just okay. We expect a little bit more consistency from Chris. He's got great talent. He really worked hard this summer. I was really pleased with his summer work. He put on weight. He got to the level that we wanted him physically. Now we want to see a consistency out of him. I don't want to compare him to anybody, but you know, we went through this a little bit with other players in our program where we demanded that consistency, and that's where we are with Chris. We want more consistency. We think he's got such a high ceiling. I mean, we think he can be a terrific football player. But, you know, if you rewind, this is pretty much my critique of most of the players in the program. You know, we're looking for consistency across the board because he has flashes where you go, wow. And then, you know, you go, what was that? So he's at that point now going into year 2 with us that we're looking for that consistent performance week in and week out.
With Eshak, there's been such an expectation, I guess, from fans and media that at some point he was going to be a breakout player. Do you see him evolving into that this year?
I hope so. I mean, everything that I've seen, he's done cooking. I mean, he's ready to go. He's shown everything to me in practice, his preparation, his off season. It just took a little bit longer. But I'm excited to watch him play on Saturday. He's done everything that we've asked him to do. Hasn't said anything about, hey, I want to play at this position. We've asked him to play end. He's played end. He's at cat. He's done everything we've asked him to do. I'm really excited about watching him play.
With Jaylon, he came in with such a recruiting tag on him as being one of the top 5 players in the country. How did he handle that as a guy here in the summer and fall camp? And then also, how did he handle not having a clear path to getting on the field right away?
I thought he's done pretty well. You know, I don't know that there were many times where we had to, you know, remind him that, hey, you have to work for it, but he had to work for it. It was Danny Spahn, it was Council, and it was Jaylon Smith. It didn't start the other way around. So he was number 3 on the depth chart when they ran out there. Even though there wasn't a depth chart posted, he didn't go with the first group. Danny Spahn was with the first, Council was second, Jaylon was third, and he went out and he did his job. So he comes from a good family. He comes from a great program where, you know, they obviously did a great job of teaching him, you know, how to go about and do his thing. And he's been great, and he's put himself in a position now to do some great things.
You mentioned that you want to play a lot of people. You're going to play a lot of people. If the situation dictates it, how important is it to get your other quarterbacks on the field and get them some experience?
Well, I might say that any time that you can get your second and third quarterback in, that's a good thing if it's not an injury, right? So obviously we'd love to get in that mindset. Our mindset is we really want to get off to a good start with Tommy Rees. He wasn't a starter for us last year, so I think everything that we're thinking about, Eric, is to really have a solid game, a great start for Tommy Rees, and getting off to a good start in 2013. Playing a lot of players is not just weather-related. We're going to play a lot of players. It's just going to be the nature of this football team. So I think our game plan, everything that we do, will not be necessarily weather-related as much as we're going to play a lot of players. And Tommy Rees needs to really have a good first game. And I think we're focused more about Tommy playing, you know, start to finish than we are, you know, getting other quarterbacks in the game.
Last one from me. There was a lot of talk in some of the other conferences, a debate about whether fast tempo offenses created some injury problems on defense or injury situations, made it riskier for defenses for whatever reason, a lot of going back and forth. Do you buy into that? Do you think that it's creating more of an injury risk having fast tempo offenses?
I really haven't been in tune to that conversation. You know, when I've had conversations about fast tempo, it's trying to neutralize really good defensive coordinators. It's trying to take away sub packages. It's trying to take away the pen, last from the defensive coordinator as it relates to running tempo. It hasn't been much about injuries and things of that nature from my conversations, Eric.
All right, let's check, see if we have any callers real quickly.
It is star one if you do have a question over the phone today. Star one. We do have one question from Sean Mail with Irish Sports Daily.
Coach, you talked a little bit about Shoemate, Hardy, and Collinsworth at that safety spot. Will we see Max Redfield at all at safety?
I think Max is, in the mix there. I think he has made great progress. He is not right now in that rotation. I think he is somebody that you need to keep an eye on that will be in that rotation, but he's not there yet. But he's going to play on Saturday. So we obviously have high expectations for Max as we move through the season.
And last one for me. Some of the young guys obviously have to worry about tempo, and that's kind of what they're focused on. Do you worry about any of the veterans looking ahead to Michigan?
Every day. I mean, every single day I talk about, I'm not that far removed from South Florida, so that's what I do. This is my livelihood. So I think about all those things. So we focus on tempo. I talk about it every day. I talk about the importance of playing this game and focusing on this football game. So it'll be a topic of conversation again today, tomorrow, and every day leading right up to the Temple game.
Thanks, Coach.
Everybody, we'll have players here on Wednesday after practice. Practice is scheduled to get over about 5:50, so we'll have the guys in there after that.